What's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sports fans? This your boy JB, host of the Behind the Bench Podcast Network and channel. Giving a shout out to the rest of the crew. Shad Kelvin, Jermaine, KB Film Room, Big Dog Talk Sports. That's right, that's right. For everyone who's tuning in, thank you for supporting Behind the Bench. Subscribe to the channel. Help make these shows the best that they can be. And this is something I want to talk about real quick, man. The NBA, as we're getting close to the playoffs, and as you see, these two players pictured this is the tale of two players where the main difference between the two is that when you get right down to it, number one, when they try to shape history and when they generate the narratives about this era of the past 15 years, the super team era, because that's what this has been. This has been the super team era of the NBA. What they're going to suggest and try to convince people is that the player to the right started this era of superstars joining forces. That's what they're going to try to do. And number two, the reality is influential voices, talking heads, have always pushed for the guy to the left to have the greatest advantage possible in winning, and the guy to the right, they never did that for. They never did it. That's the difference between these two players. And that's why the guy to the left, the Hurricane, is in a favorable position this season, and the guy to the right is not, in terms of their respective teams. And what's unfortunate about this whole mix is that at one time, Kevin Durant was seen as an ambassador to this game. And because of this era, that led him to reach the conclusion that he had to follow the influence of what was established 6 years prior in 2010 when he left the Oklahoma City Thunder and signed with the Golden State Warriors. Kevin Durant will not be viewed as he should. Not as a potential quote unquote GOAT candidate, but a true ambassador of the game. And that's who Kevin Durant was. Because remember, he was drafted in 2007 when the Oklahoma City Thunder was still known as the Seattle Sonics, one of the best basketball cities in the league during the time their team played in Seattle. They won a championship in 1979, led by Lenny Wilkens as the head coach, and you had Jack Sigma, Gus Williams, players of that ilk. And they were always a quality basketball team. They had amazing fans. And then during the late 80s with Dale Ellis, Xavier McDaniel, people like that. And then Tom Chambers. And then it carried over to the 90s led by Gary Payton and Sean Kemp when they went to the finals in 1996. Always an amazing basketball town. Well, when Kevin Durant was drafted in 2007, within 2 years, they relocated to Oklahoma City, and they became the Thunder. And then they drafted Russell Westbrook, and then James Harden, and Serge Ibaka, Thabo Sefolosha. Next thing you know, they become this top flight team, man. You know, it kind of reminds you of how Oklahoma City of the current age built their team up. And next thing you know, they advanced to the finals in 2012. Now they were a tremendously talented team, but they went on super squad because they was built, and they was built primarily through the draft. And then Kevin Durant, he was a very likable figure, man. And he, remember he participated in the famous Rucker tournament in New York, and he dropped 60 points, and I believe that was the Rucker championship game or whatnot. And the fans there, man, they loved him. They appreciated him, taking time to represent Rucker as an NBA player, as he followed, uh, the influence of Kobe Bryant. When Kobe Bryant participated in the Rucker tournament, I believe that was like around 2002, somewhere around there. And Kevin Durant was called an ambassador, meaning he was the ambassador of the NBA at a very young age. Especially, as Kobe Bryant was approaching the end of his storied career. And then the moment he left OKC and went to Golden State, he became vilified overnight because he evened the playing field, because the other guy, the Hurricane, had returned back to Cleveland and formed the second super team. And his fans, man, they can sit here and say there wasn't no super team. But if you look at that roster had more offensive-laden talent than the super team in Miami. They had younger players, too. They had younger players, particularly coming off the bench. The super team Miami, starting out, they had a lot of older veteran players like, Mike Bibby, Carlos Arroyo, people like that. Well, in Cleveland, they had young, elite reserve talent. J.R. Smiths, people like that. And then Iman Shumpert. They were younger, and he had more three-point shooters too. So Kevin Durant went to Golden State to even the playing field to show in his mind he was a better basketball player. And I believe KD for 3 years was the best player in the NBA. But the talking heads would never acknowledge him as such. And I believe that frustrated him. He's like, wait a minute. The other guy get to stack the deck. And I go to a Golden State, as a free agent. Because if you really look at Golden State, Steph Curry, yes, he was the back-to-back league MVP. First unanimous MVP winner in league history, right? But would you say Klay Thompson was a superstar? And I love Klay Thompson, man. He was part of the Splash Brothers. And he won some, he played, he was a great two-way player, and he often defended the other team's best player on offense. But do you view him as a superstar? Do you view Draymond Green as a superstar? No, they was a team that adhered to a style of play that they built on year after year after year, where the chemistry was automatic. That's what Golden State was. Plus, they was built from the ground up. So he wins 2 championships in Golden State. And from the time he signed with Golden State, there was pressure on him to leave because they always wanted the other guy to have the easiest path to winning. So think about it. He finally leaves Golden State in 2019, after suffering that Achilles injury. And then he joined forces with Kyrie Irving as free agents with the Brooklyn Nets. So now you probably have the 2 most vilified players in the NBA on the same team, because one guy, KD, put up the roadblock. The other guy, Kyrie, asked to be traded and didn't want to play with the Hurricane anymore. So the media was on their backs from the get-go in Brooklyn. They never wanted to see Brooklyn do anything good. But what's unfortunate about what's going on with KD, he was a tremendous basketball player. He played 1 year in college at the University of Texas. And I remember, watching him play continuously, during his freshman year. And you can tell, man, he was a natural elite scorer. And I remember the scouting report, when he was drafted, was that he was an elite scorer. And, most people thought he was going to be drafted with the number one pick by the Portland Trailblazers. And the joke about Portland was that was the team who passed up on Michael Jordan when they drafted Sam Bowie. But at the time, they already had an elite up-and-coming two-guard in Clyde Drexler. But nonetheless, we was like, oh, man, we know they ain't going to blow this again. KD was right there in their lap. And they chose and selected Greg Oden, who had been dealing with injuries from his rookie season and throughout the entire duration of his career until he had to retire prematurely as a result of multiple injuries. So what I'm saying is, man, Kevin Durant was an ambassador. And essentially, that was without him really knowing, because he thought he was going to get the same credit by exercising quote-unquote player empowerment as the Hurricane did. And it was never going to happen. And that's what he found out. So basically, he's being viewed as a player that's been hopping from team to team, although the other guy had been hopping from team to team too. But the main difference between the two is there's always the push and the pressure to make sure that the one guy to the left always has the advantage, and the other guy, they didn't push for it in that manner. And they're going to try to tag Kevin Durant with starting this era of super teaming, devaluation of basketball, and stacking the deck. And he didn't start it. But unfortunately, they're going to associate him with it. And that's the trade-off when he was an ambassador. And I feel for KD. But, he's with the Phoenix Suns for the past 2.5 seasons. And the team has really not achieved anything. But what you're seeing out of the Phoenix Suns now is what you saw out of the Los Angeles Lakers 3 years ago. After getting rid of all their real players, their young talent, switching everything up, trading away multiple draft picks to facilitate trades, to bring in, additional star players. And now Phoenix is not going to do anything. But this was the Lakers 3 years ago. But the only thing that the Lakers have in their back pocket is that they're the Lakers. And as long as the Hurricane is on the team, there's always going to be a push to bring in player after player after player to help him win. Phoenix doesn't have the benefit of that constant support from the outside basketball world. So KD's probably going to request to be traded, and he's going to be seen as a team hopper when he was the ambassador of the NBA. But that's why this super team era is being so negative for this league, because this is the only era where we didn't get to see who's truly the best when it comes to superstar. I ain't talking about stats. I'm not talking about none of that. I'm talking about competition of the highest order between superstars. We didn't get to see that. We got to see that in every other decade. The 2000s, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Shaquille O'Neal, Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki. We can go on and on and on. Paul Pierce. And at the time, the Hurricane entered the league along with D. Wade, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. And because of the fact that those three guys joined forces, we never got to see any of those three guys go against each other in the playoffs. Think about that. We got to see Kobe and Duncan go against each other multiple times in the playoff. We got to see Kobe go against Jason Kidd in the playoff. Or Kobe, we'll say Kobe and Shaq go up against David Robinson and Tim Duncan. Or Kobe and Shaq going up against Chris Webber and Mike Bibby, or Kobe and Shaq go up against Rasheed Wallace or Vita Sabonis or whatnot. We got to see that. Kobe and Shaq going up against Malone and Stockton. Jordan and Pippen going up against uh, Kemp and Peyton. So you knew who was who, man. We didn't get to see that. Only in sporadic moments. It's only sporadically. But Kevin Durant, man, I believe for 3 years, he was the best basketball player in the NBA. For 3 years. I'm going to say from 2017, really tell you the truth, technically before that, but I'm going to say 2017, 2018, 2019. And then Giannis started to emerge when he won back-to-back league MVP. And then from there, Jokic, But Kevin Durant, man, the media attacks him with liberty. Remember when he was on Brooklyn a couple years ago and they lost in the first round to Boston, they got swept? Man, the talking heads was pounding away on him, man. They was pounding away. Well, that was the same year that the Lakers didn't even make the play-in. That the Hurricane put that team together. He pushed for the trade for Westbrook. He had the ultimate say-so in all the moves they made in putting that team together, which was the oldest roster in the history of the NBA. They won 33 games. And they was picked to win it all. So what I'm trying to say is KD would try to keep up with what the Hurricane was doing. So he goes to Brooklyn. And then he felt he needed that third star. So he brings in James Harden. And they was calling it Star Wars. Who can stack the deck the most? And I didn't believe in either team. You see what I'm saying? That's why I say, man, I believe in the real teams. The real teams got the mental edge. That's why Boston beat Brooklyn in that playoff. That's why the Lakers didn't sniff the play-in, because they weren't real teams, man, trying to shortcut the process. But KD got caught up in that mode. But I don't believe he's a front runner. But he felt that he had to keep up with the precedent that was set 6 years prior. But he's finding out that the media, and that's why he said the environment is toxic. That's why he said that. Because the media is always going to push. Think about it, man. You didn't see, since he been in Phoenix, you didn't see the talking head say, man, Phoenix they need to bring in another star player. You didn't see that. But they made sure Luka got traded to help the Hurricane. You see what I'm saying? It's bias, man. And that's what's bringing the league dynamic down. And that's why I be glad when this era is over, man. So these young stars who out here competing, playing hard, they get their recognition, man. That's why I support these young squads, dog. Especially after all my young core players were all vanquished. They started off 19 years old, 18 years old. Zubac, 18. Ingram was 18 when he was drafted. Lonzo was 19. Randall was 19. You know what I'm saying? And there was zero patience applied. Cools was young coming in, 22. Hart was 22. Thomas Bryant was 19. You know what I'm saying? But as we see, these teams that stay the course, man, they're going to have the most success long term, man. And I roll with that. But I feel for Kevin Durant because at one time he was the ambassador of the NBA. And now he's going to be viewed as a guy who basically, as we want to call it, a bus rider. That's the downside to this super team era that started in 2010 because what it did was it compromised the mentality of the superstar. That's what it did. It's not about style of play. It's not about shooting threes. It ain't about none of that. It's about the superstar mentality taking a major hit when you saw three franchise players joining forces, and it's been chaos since. And a player of the stature of a KD, he got caught up in that wave, and he felt he had to do the same thing to even the playing field. And that's the downside, and that's the unfortunate aspect of this whole era of the past 15 years. But I just want to drop that gold nugget. Please share comments and thoughts. And until next time, this your boy JB. This is JB for BTB, Behind the Bench.